In this clip, we'll use the simple interest formula to determine how long somebody needs to keep their money invested in order to achieve a goal. So for example, if you wanted to save up for a new car, this approach would tell you how long you need to keep your money invested in a bank account until you've got enough money. Let's have a look at the question we're going to try and solve together. Chris invested $1,000 at a rate of 8% per year. He needs to earn $200 in interest. How long should he invest his money in years? Like any word problem, the first thing we need to do is pick out the important numbers. Well, we know that Chris starts out with $1,000 and he wants it to grow in a bank account until he's earned an extra $200 in interest. And the rate of growth is 8% per year. And the question wants to know how long does he have to keep that money in the account until it's gone up by $200. In order to solve this problem, we're going to go ahead and use the simple interest formula, which looks like this. We have I for interest. It's equal to P, which is the principal or the amount of money that you start off with, and rate, which is R, and last T, the amount of time that it stays in the account. Let's go ahead now in step 1 and list our givens. The first number we've highlighted is $1,000, and that's the amount of money that Chris started off with. Well, the amount of money we start off with is called the principal, or P in the simple interest equation, and that's going to be $1,000. The next highlighted number is a percent, 8%, and it's the rate of growth, which is R. And the last highlighted number is $200, and that's the interest. That's how much the principal has grown by. Which means we have a P, an R, and an I, and we're missing the T, and that'll be our unknown in this question. We're going to solve for T, time. Before we can do that, though, we have to convert R, our rate, which is expressed as a percent, into a decimal. So that's step 2. Converting 8% to a decimal is really just a matter of writing down the number, which is 8, without the percent symbol. I'm going to replace the percent symbol with a decimal and then move it 2 places to the left, just like this. And I'm going to have a gap there, so I'm going to add a 0 as a placeholder. So 8% converted to decimal is 0.08. If you need a refresher on this skill, check out an earlier mini clip called Converting Percent to Decimal. And now that we've got our rate converted into decimal, we can go ahead and start filling in these values and solving for T, and that's step 3. I'm just going to go ahead and use this equation and start filling in my values for I, P, and R. My I is given in step 1 as 200. My P is the principal, and that's 1,000. The R is our rate, which was 8%, which we converted to 0.08 in step 2. And finally, the unknown, which is T in this case, the time. I'm going to go ahead and clean this equation up a little bit. I just want to simplify it by multiplying 1,000 with 0.08. So to do that, I'm going to bring up my calculator and type in 1,000 times it with 0.08. And I get a value of 80. So my next line will look like this. 200 equals 80t. I've just replaced those two values with 80. Next, I need to isolate for this variable, t, and since there's an 80 multiplying it, I'm going to do the opposite maths operation, which is division. I'll divide both sides by 80. Now, if you're not sure why I'm doing that, I invite you to check out an earlier clip on solving linear equations. Now I have an 80 over an 80 right here. Well, any number divided by itself is actually just a big fancy looking 1. So this 80 over 80 will be gone, leaving just a t behind. And 200 divided by 80 is 2.5. Once I've gotten to this stage, typically it's good practice to express your final answer with the variable on the left-hand side of the equal sign. So I'm just going to do a little flip of these two numbers. T is equal to 2.5. Now it's a little bit easier for somebody who's reading this to understand what I'm talking about. And this is in years. That's my final answer. What we've just found is that Chris, who invested $1,000 at 8% per year, he needs to leave his money in his account for 2.5 years in order to earn an extra $200 in interest. And finally, I went ahead and added a concluding statement that looks like this. Therefore, Chris needs to invest his money for 2.5 years. And there's my finished problem. Okay, so now we'll see how you do. I'll go ahead and give you a practice problem in this column, and I'll post a solution when you're ready. Just try and use the same steps that I've outlined here on the left. Your problem reads as follows. Robin invested $3,000 at a rate of 4% per year. He needs to earn $600 in interest. How long should he invest his money in years? Okay, go ahead. And here's the posted solution. Turns out Robin needs to invest his money for 5 years. And we got that answer by first listing our givens, then converting 4% into a decimal, and finally we plug our values in for I, P, and R into the simple interest formula, and we solve for T, 5 years.